Hello and welcome to the Moogle Mechanic. Today we are working on an Xbox 360 that has had the laser fail on its DVD drive. I've actually been in this console before. I changed the laser out on it 2 or 3 years ago. And that time I only had a spare used laser hanging around, and it got the console back on the road, but that laser has since failed. And at the time that I did that laser replacement, I went ahead and put fresh thermal paste, cleaned the fans, made sure it was all good to go. Since it's been several years, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that process while changing out the laser. This laser I'm putting in is a brand new one, so it should put him good to go for quite some time. So we're gonna start off by taking off the faceplate, and it's just press fit. I was really impressed with this console as the faceplate still has these flaps intact for the memory card for the USB. Typically on these Fat 360s, at least one of these is going to be missing, the hinge breaks and the flap goes missing. So that's really nice. All right, next things next, we need to remove these end grills. And my favorite tool for that is a push pin. So we start with this top one. The front of this, you just gently but firmly push up. Sometimes you have to pull a little bit. And there we go. And that gets the first two clips. You don't want to be too harsh with that because they can break. Then from there, you're going to be looking on the side here where all these holes, and there's holes that are filled in, and the spot to push in the next clip is in between those holes and then one level down from that. So we got this one's filled in, this one's filled in, so it's going to be right here. You press in and it comes undone. That side already came out. And then just repeat the process going round and round. This last one here, the hole is actually underneath this foot. And while I like using these push pins, you just go centered on this foot down at the very bottom, and you can press in and find the hole without having to remove the foot. And there we go. And we'll repeat the process for the other side. And voila. The next thing we have to do is undo the clips here on the back side of the console. A lot of times when you see used 360s that have been opened before, these holes right here will be gouged out because people are using a tool that's too big for the hole. That's another reason why I like to go with these push pins, because it leaves these intact. I just like to take these two fingers and I'll stick them in here like this to kind of press apart, or sometimes I'll use my thumb, but just press these two sides apart so that when you press in on the clips, it goes ahead and starts to separate the shell. Sometimes it can be a little stubborn, so it might take a couple of attempts. But have your wits about you and your patience, and you will get it done. There we go. Now we got that apart like that, and there's two more right here. we got the two halves apart. Now I just like to give it an overbite and fold them over like that, because then when you come here to the other side of the console, I'm also not used to doing this and trying to film at the same time. Come to the other side of the console, got these little tabs here, there, 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 and there. This one's actually being pretty kind to me. Sometimes you have to go in with a little screwdriver to get some of these tabs, but that one's being not so temperamental. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to be ready to pull the top of this shell off, so we need to remove the eject button, and that attaches down here. So come in with any sort of pry tool and just carefully pull it away, and there you go, there's your eject button. All right, now next thing we're going to be doing is removing these 6 T10s. So we got this one here, this one here, this one here, this one right here, here, and here. Okay. Now that that's removed, we can flip the console back over, and this will come right off. So as we can see here, it's actually pretty clean on the inside overall. It's gotten a little bit of dust, but nothing too severe. But we're gonna start off by going ahead and removing the optical drive to replace the laser. There's typically, you can see this shiny kind of metallic tape comes up like this and goes over like that. I seem to remember when I worked on this, that ripped when I tried to remove it. So once that tape is removed, you can just pull straight up and this comes out. And there's 2 connectors on the back. And then we'll set the console to the side. And we'll flip this over. Got 4 screws to remove. Those screws are a Phillips. They're either 1 or 2. I typically use a Phillips 1 and it works just fine, but I'm pretty sure it's actually a Phillips 2. Just my little set doesn't have a Phillips 2, so Phillips 1 will do just fine. Okay, we'll grab the screws. Nice thing about working on Xbox 360, the screws are very descriptive. So it's very unlikely for you to get the wrong screw in the wrong place. Like the T10s that we removed to get the shell apart, Those are very long. It's very obvious, you know, where they go, what they do, and the number of them. There's also a lot of T8s on the bottom and some shorter T10s. And I guess it could be a little easy to get some of those confused, but just take a picture before you take it apart if you're unsure, and that way you can take a look when you go back and, oh, hey, presto, that's where that goes. So once we get those 4 screws off, this bottom panel comes off, and then from there we can gently, well, in that case it just slid right off, shimmy the top off. There's our offending laser. And to get to that, we're gonna wanna manually eject the drive, and it's done by this bar right here. Holding the drive in this orientation, you just slide the bar from left over to right, and there we go. From there, to remove the laser, we need to remove this ribbon cable. We need to, at the very least, loosen this clamp here and remove this clamp. And then also remove this screw and this plastic mechanism. These are all Phillips 1. That's a Phillips 0. A Phillips 1 will not fit in that screw. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with that and grab my Phillips 0. Itty bitty little thing. And then you can just pry that up away from the laser gently. And there we go, that frees that. I'm gonna switch back to my Phillips 1. For that, go ahead and stick it in the top shell of that so I'm not getting it mixed in with any of my other screws. And I'll loosen this up. That should be plenty. This bar we're going to move to the right and get it out of its clip like that. And from there, it'll actually end up moving it out that way, but it can just sit as it wants to. Gently, when you're removing this bar, just gently pull this tab back. Don't pull too hard because you don't want to bend it. And you could just remove it. I just find it a pain. In this case, I think it wants me to remove it. The last one of these I worked on like this, I didn't have to, but even though these aren't, you know, these are inanimate objects, I swear they have moods. So we'll remove that, set that to the side. And that just pulls out like that. You can see this tan color back here on this plug that's different. You just slide that back and that ribbon cable comes out. And voila, we have removed the offending laser. We'll set that to the side. It's okay. And here here's our new laser. I actually used this laser once, but it was brand new when I got it. Used it once, and the console has just sat since. Oh yeah, and when you buy these lasers, you see these 3 little dots right here. That's all soldered together, and you have to remove that solder. It protects the laser from static when it's in shipment. Go. And slide that forward of the board. Why are you putting up a fight? It's putting up a fight, y'all. Don't know why it's putting up a fight. Should just slide together from here. But you want to put up a fight? Okay. There we go. Again, I swear sometimes these things get moods. You also want to be sure when you're doing this to try your best not to touch the laser. If you do end up touching it, you can always come back with some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip and clean it back up, but it's always best just to do your best not to touch it. I'll get that back in place. Screw that down. There we go. Do the same over here. And you want the metal clamp to be on top of the rod. There we go. Like that. Squeeze it down nice and tight. All right. Same as before, pull back on this little, different color plastic so that we can easily insert our ribbon cable. And you just push the 2 sides of it in. And there we go, new laser in place. I see some contaminant here on the spindle. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I'm gonna take some cotton pad and some isopropyl alcohol, and let's see if we can clean that up. I typically like to have isopropyl that's at least 80% alcohol. Sometimes it can be hard to find, I've noticed, weirdly, at least as of late. What I'm using is 70, but as you can see, whatever that contaminant was that was on the spindle came right off with the 70, so it's good enough. Okay, now we're going to put this white clip with its P0 Phillips 0 screw back in place. Grab our Phillips 0 bit. And you just wiggle it a little bit back and forth and make sure that it's gripping on this spiral rod here. And if you see this move with this moving, you're in good shape. Okay, the next thing we need to do, I noticed this had a little trouble ejecting on its own, very common on Fat 360s. And it's 99.99% of the time, it's this belt right here being dirty or stretched or whatnot. So I'm gonna remove it. That's it. And I'll start off by taking cotton and isopropyl, cleaning it. Typically I use a Q-tip for this. I am actually going to grab some Q-tips here in a minute. But this will show us how dirty it was or wasn't. In this case, a little bit, but not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I will return with some Q-tips and some further steps. I shall return shortly.